Hello everyone, welcome back to the Marcus Dell'Olio YouTube channel. As always, I'm your host, Marcus Dell'Olio. Let's get right into it today. Dang, nailed it. Alright, let's go. So I have no more footage for vlogs, unfortunately. But today I figured I would talk about something that I attempted to vlog a few years ago and failed miserably at, I may add, because that would have been my first time ever attempting to vlog, and under such stressful situations, which I'll get into. That's not the best conditions to try to start something in. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about my trip to Australia. Back in 2014, I was blessed with the opportunity to be able to travel to Australia. And I didn't travel by myself. Technically I did. How old was I? I was 16 years old, and I was scrolling through Twitter, as you do as a 16-year-old, and I came across Brian from BHP Reptiles. He posted, looking for people to fill slots for a trip to Australia. Immediately, and I saw it within 2 minutes of him posting it, immediately I private messaged him and I was like, hey, would love to go to Australia. Did not once, talk to Mom about it before I sent him the message or anything. So we got to talking, and eventually Mom came home and I was like, hey, I really want to go to Australia. Here's how I can do it. Here's all the finances and all the rest of it. So I spent almost all of my money, and my grandparents and my mom chipped in as well, because I did not have the entirety of the funds to just travel to Australia on a whim at the time of being 16 years old. Imagine that. So off we went. And by we, I just mean me. I flew out of the St. John airport, tiny little airport, and flew to Toronto and then to LAX, where I would meet up with Brian Barczyk, Josh Roberts, and a few other people that were there. When I met with them at the airport, it's pretty interesting. I never met any of them before, unironically. I'd talked to Brian a few times, but I'd never actually met with him before. And then we get on the plane. As we're getting on the plane, it is about the time I meet up with another guy named Martin. Martin's a fantastic man, great guy. I think from South Carolina, maybe North Carolina. I'm so sorry if you see this, Martin. I cannot remember where you're from. Hilarious guy. Anyways, we get on the plane, and I sleep for 8 whole hours and then watch like 3 or 4 full-length films. This was about a 13-and-a-half-hour flight. When we landed in Sydney, we were supposed to land in Brisbane, but right before we basically got on the plane, we got the news that we're actually heading to Sydney instead of Brisbane for one reason or another. I can't remember. We fly into Sydney, and because I'm a Canadian citizen, I was let into the country very easily. They had to wait in customs for like forever. We had to rush over to the next terminal, get on the plane, and fly over to Brisbane. Once we were in Brisbane, we didn't spend very much time there, from what I can remember. We spent most of our time in Ipswich. We went out to Ipswich after meeting up with Peter Birch from Criticam and Colin, and we head up to Ipswich for a reptile show. Reptile shows in Australia are very different than the American reptile shows, from what I can remember, in the sense that you're not allowed to buy anything at them. It's essentially like a beauty pageant and an informational kind of weekend. You're not supposed to buy anything. I'm pretty sure it's against the law. At least it was when I was there. In that locale, I'm not sure about all of Australia, but in that locale, I know it was illegal because I remember people talking about how it was illegal to do that. And it was at the reptile show in Ipswich that we met Bob Irwin. And I don't remember if we were supposed to meet Bob Irwin at that time. This sounds really ridiculous, but I sincerely don't believe we were supposed to meet Bob Irwin right then. I think we were supposed to meet him like the next day, because Brian had gotten in contact with him before. However, we meet Bob Irwin. It is like the sea of people that is at this reptile show parts, and the patron saint of wildlife is at the end of it, and he's got this massive Spencer's monitor, draped across him, and he's bleeding all over because of the sharp nails from the monitor lizard. I go up to him immediately, shake his hand, Bob Irwin, my name is Marcus Dell'Olio, and he says, good day, Marcus Dell'Olio. I'm not going to do that too much, trust me, sorry. And we get to chatting, and that's when I find out that he loves the wildlife of New Brunswick. We started chatting about, essentially, most of what we talked about was black bears. The man loves black bears, apparently. We talked in great lengths about black bears, because I have a couple of experiences with a black bear. And then from then, we just chatted. We met up with another guy named Jono, who had a particularly large collection of reptiles, highly venomous ones, some crocodiles, some non-venomous stuff, just really interesting stuff that you would never see inside the United States. So that was very interesting. Then we went, I believe it was the next day, to Bob Irwin's house. We spent the entire day at Bob Irwin's. His wife cooked us supper. It was so cool. We toured through his entire property, Camp Chili, caught some snakes, looked at some snakes, let some snakes go. There were a couple of carpet pythons that tried to get into his chicken coop about the couple hours before we got there. And so he kept them back so that we could like get pictures with them and then release them on his property with him. We got to see a bunch of koalas. We got to smell all the eucalyptus that's on the property. Oh, I love the smell of eucalyptus. It's one of my favorite smells, especially like wild eucalyptus mixed with the smell of the soil and just the wood smell in general. Oh my word, take me back to Australia, Lord. After we left his house, we went to, I think we spent a little bit longer in Ipswich in a separate area. And then we went up to Darwin. It is definitely not the next day. And it is most certainly not 5:30. And I am most certainly not picking this up on the next day because I forgot to charge my camera last time I recorded it. Okay? Debbie, in Darwin, we went to a very interesting place called Fog Dam. Fog Dam, if you don't know, is a dam. Has the highest predator to prey ratio on the planet. I think it's something like 3-to-1 predators to prey animals. One of the few places on Earth where predatory animals outweigh the animals they are kind of supposed to predate on. Very interesting, very cool. When we went there, we would always go at night because I don't know if you guys know this, but when we were over there, we were typically looking for snakes. So we'd go to Fog Dam at night. Now we got a safety briefing before we went about not going too close to the water. Now why was this? Well, it was because there were a lot of crocodiles in the water. And I did not believe that there were that many crocodiles because I was born in Florida, but I did most of my growing up in Canada. So that's foreign to me. I didn't understand that. It's something that I can understand why tourists that go to Australia that end up getting, murked by a crocodile, I can understand them not understanding that there is a large predatory creature in there that is able to kill them. I completely comprehend that from someone who grew up in Canada. But for someone who also knows the dangers of these animals, who has worked with these animals, even before that, I had hands-on experience with a lot of these animals. So that being said, we went out there one night and, big chillin' in a couple of Kia vans that we had rented. I was in the back. Typically, the trunk was open, and I was just like sitting in the back with a couple other guys. I got stung by a lot of stinging insects. I'm not sure what they were. All I know is they hurt really badly. We only caught water pythons, unfortunately, which really sucks. But to go back to, doesn't really suck, Water pythons are cool. I like water pythons. To go back to the crocodile thing, I asked Colin, I said, hey, there can't be that many crocodiles out there, right? I think this was like the second night we were out. Like, there can't be that many crocodiles out there, right? And he says, oh, you want to bet? Dude shines a light out into the darkness, essentially. And the amount of eye shine that we got back was insane. 20 or 30 crocodiles. Not making this up. They weren't super close to shore, but I'm sure there were some that were closer to shore, later on down and stuff like that. So long story short, if you're in Fog Dam, Australia, don't go swimming. From Darwin, we actually went back to Sydney, where we had originally landed, and spent some time there. We went to the Taronga Zoo, we went to the Sydney Reptile Park, both of which were fantastic. The Taronga Zoo we got a tour of, and the Sydney Reptile Park we got a really good tour of. We got like a whole behind the scenes thing. I got to hold a cup with a Sydney funnel web spider inside of it. I got to pet a Tasmanian devil, little baby. Got to hold a baby wombat, super cool. My buddy Travis that was there had, a good 8 inches of his hair eaten by a wombat. We got it back because it didn't really chew it off. It just kind of swallowed it. So he just had this slimy mass of hair hanging down. It was super cute when the wombat was doing it, but afterwards it was like, okay. Yeah, you could say you had your hair chewed on by a wombat, but it's really gross for the time being. Later on in the week, we actually went and got, this is total side note, by the way, we went down this alleyway, and it had if you guys are from Australia, which according to my analytics, pretty much none of you are, but if anybody from Australia hears this, please tell me where this is. We were in Sydney, I can't remember what part of Sydney we were in. I've tried to look it up on my own several times because I can't even remember the name of the restaurant. We went down an alleyway where there were neon lights, right? Like almost like angel looking things all over. From what I can remember, they were either clouds or they were like cherubs. I can't remember what they exactly were. And we went down this alleyway, and then we went down another alleyway, then we went down a street, and down the street there was this like Asian restaurant, but I'm pretty sure it was a Chinese restaurant. I'm pretty sure that's what it was like marketed as. And in front of it were these pillars, right? But instead of just like a cement pillar or something, it was a big like acrylic container. And there were these massive crabs inside of them. And I'll put a picture up of these crabs. These crabs were ginormous. I have no idea. I don't know. Please tell me what the name of this restaurant is, because it had some of the best curry I've ever had in my entire life. I got a green, like, prawn curry, which if you guys don't know, prawns are kind of like shrimp, but not really. In my opinion, they kind of taste a little better. They're a little bit more meaty, in my opinion, than a shrimp. You know, that being said, it's been 6 years since I've eaten one, so going on 7 years since I've eaten one. So, you know, I gotta go back to Australia, and I gotta vlog it next time I actually go. But then we flew back, pretty much all on separate flights, unfortunately. I had it was an 8+ hour, I think it was about a 9-hour layover in the LAX airport, which I pretty much slept through the entire time. Got to see a guy by the name of Ron Jeremy in the airport. That was weird. That was kind of a surreal experience, I'm not gonna lie. I did not take a picture with him or anything. I just kind of looked up and was like, oh, that's who that is, and, you know, kept walking. Once I got home, my aunt picked me up at the airport, and I went to sleep for a long time. Here's the thing about the jet lag. It did not affect me when I was going over, but when I came back, it really affected me. And honestly, that held true when I went to Israel as well. When I went there, pretty much nothing. No difference whatsoever. I was totally on time with my sleep, everything. When I came back from Israel, I was dead to rights for a couple of weeks. Same with Australia. Australia almost has like a 12-hour time difference just about from where I lived in Canada. And so getting used to the real life again, for lack of better words, because everyone knows Australia isn't real, was a very difficult thing to do coming back. But would I do it again in a heartbeat? I miss Australia very much. I would love to go to the West Coast, because I pretty much just stayed on the east and then up into the north. Would love to go to the west, would love to go to the south. Very interesting place. I would really like to go to New Guinea and explore that place. I would really like to go to New Zealand. There's just that whole area I would really love to go to. So I hope this wasn't too boring for you guys, just me kind of reminiscing from what I remember of the trip to Australia. If you have any questions about anything I did over there, please don't hesitate to comment down below. Like, maybe leave me a subscribe if you would, be so kind. Remember to always take the stairs. If you get tired, please pull over, give me a call. That extra couple of minutes, maybe an hour or two of drive time is not worth your life or your safety. One of these days I will tell you that story. You know what? That's gonna be my next video. I'm telling you the story as to why I tell you guys that at the end of every single video. So please have a good day or night, whatever time it is you're watching this. We'll see you in the next one.